after the break. My name is Rachel Streitfeld. I am one of the commissioners in North Bay Village. I represent Treasure Island, which is our mixed-use island. We have single-family, multifamily, commercial, industrial, and governmental on Treasure Island. For those of you who do not know, North Bay Village is west of Miami Beach, east of Miami, north of the 195, and right in the heart of Biscayne Bay. We are a three-island community. We were dredged from the bottom of Biscayne Bay in the 1940s. Some folks built seawalls, graded and paved it, and now we are a thriving community with 8,500 residents. Unfortunately, the infrastructure in our beautiful island community was not updated really at all since the islands were constructed. And so we found ourselves, obviously, with flooding on sunny days, flooding when it rains, and staring down the barrel of future sea level rise conditions the way that all of our coastal and many inland communities across the state are staring down those challenges. I have had the pleasure of serving in North Bay Village since 2020. I am a land use and zoning attorney by trade, and I decided to practice in the area of land use and zoning because I wanted to become an expert on adapting the built environment for climate and future sea level rise conditions. So as soon as I joined the dais, I made it my absolute priority to see that the infrastructure in our community was made more resilient. And I'm so proud to say that in the 3.5 years that I have been serving North Bay Village, we not only have passed tremendous financing by the public, which I'll get to in a minute, but we've gone from 0 to 100 in terms of upgrading our infrastructure. And this presentation is going to tell you about the Stormwater Master Plan, which is one very big, important project, but it is one of dozens of big, important projects that we have in our humble little town. So sea level rise. We all know about it. We've been talking about it. Can't not talk about it. The reality is that the sea level conditions that exist today have caused our existing stormwater system to fail, essentially. I've got saltwater intrusion eating away at all of my underground pipes. As Paola knows, we have a lot of inflow and infiltration that has eaten away, and our wastewater system is so problematic to Biscayne Bay that we have a building moratorium in several of our basins, which is causing grief like you can't imagine for some of my property owners. The road beds are also corroding and falling away, and our roads need to be constructed. But from a stormwater perspective, we have an issue, like everyone has an issue where, it rains a lot and our groundwater is saturated and the rain ends up in the street. Right now on a sunny day, at the lowest point in our community, which is in front of my condo, there is only a 5-inch difference between the top of the asphalt and the groundwater level on a regular day, 5 inches. So the map here shows those magenta and purple areas. That is, I think, our existing, these are future conditions. What is that, Chris, 2060, that map? Okay, so this is a 2060 map. We're looking at, what's interesting is when we decided to do our Stormwater Master Plan, our consultant's first choice for a sea level rise projection was the NOAA Intermediate High, because that's what the state law says for a vulnerability assessment. You have to look at the NOAA Intermediate Low and the NOAA Intermediate High. But I really pushed for us to look at the high. I wanted us to use the high curve because we are so vulnerable. I'm not an engineer. The engineers pushed back a little bit, but I said, no, I'm comfortable with us over planning a little bit because things don't seem to be getting any better. And why not plan for a worst case scenario? So we use the NOAA high curve. I've talked a little bit about groundwater levels. Our consultants on the Stormwater Master Plan, who, by the way, are BCC Engineering. I don't see anybody from BCC in the room today, but thank you if you are here. We love you. I do see some of our consultants in the room, and so I want to give a shout out to Charlie from Black and Beach and Paola, who are helping us on this journey. We're really grateful for the partnerships with our consultants. But anyhow, so our BCC told us that groundwater levels were going to rise at the same rate of sea level rise, and so that's how we're planning for future conditions. And you can see based on these maps, the large rectangle at the bottom is Treasure Island, the horseshoe is Harbor Island, and then the smaller rectangle is North Bay Island, which is single family homes. We've got inundation basically all the time if we do nothing. So groundwater levels, as I said, projected to rise in direct connection to sea level rise. And then in the 2060 condition, 22% of our land area is below the high tide level, resulting in permanent inundation or sunny day flooding. And then we have no soil storage capacity. And the other challenge that we face is that we are completely built out. I was sitting here during the presentation of Cape Canaveral, and I was like drooling at the image of that beautiful, smart stormwater park that they're building there. We just don't have space like that. And so we're looking for every single opportunity, whether it's 20 square feet or 100 square feet, tiny bulb outs, or maybe it's a partnership with the public school on our island, the Treasure Island Elementary School. Can we use some of their open space to store water? And so we are exploring every option. I mentioned a little bit the history of our infrastructure, which is a history of non-action. 50 years, no updates. Aging stormwater system is basically completely antiquated. It's like a vestigial organ. We don't really even know why it's there. And so everything from outfalls to pipes needs to be replaced, as do our roads. And this is really a hard thing to explain to residents, right? They don't have the attention span. They don't understand the difference between stormwater and sea level rise. Most of them don't understand that seawalls are privately owned and cannot be necessarily a public infrastructure project. And so we have to really work so hard to communicate these projects to get public buy-in for all of the construction that is going to take place over the next decade. And that's been an incredible challenge. You see the picture here. This is one of our town halls. We had dozens of town halls. I had so much pizza, and it was hard to get people out. It really was. I mean, there were a couple occasions where we were knocking on doors, and I think we're going to continue to knock on doors. But the people who did attend were very concerned that we were going to raise the roads and flood private property. They read the news. They're on Nextdoor. They hear about the challenges that other communities are experiencing. And so they assume that we are going to make the same mistake that other municipalities next door may or may not have made in terms of flooding private property. I think we were incredibly sensitive to that concern. And so we went above and beyond to persuade our residents to trust us that we were going to pay particular attention to harmonization between our right-of-way and private property. And on our commercial stretch, it's owned by FDOT, it's really not an issue. And we have a very small stretch of State Road 934, the Kennedy Causeway. That's our commercial stretch. We're talking about the residential streets on Harbor Island, Treasure Island, and North Bay Island. So one of the things that we talked about doing to maximize the public right-of-way so that we don't have to do regulatory takings or inverse condemnation, we talked about the possibility of reducing our drive aisles in some key locations from being 2 lanes to 1 lane and creating new drive patterns through Treasure Island so that we could narrow the drive aisle and increase the capacity for stormwater management and drainage on either side of the road while still maintaining enough on-street parking to allow for our residents to have the freedom and quality of life to park their cars and have their guests in front of their homes. So this is really a challenge. It's creative. There's going to be a lot of public engagement around, hey guys, how do you feel if we reduce the size of the street in front of your house, and instead of being able to make a left or a right to get to work, you have to make a left, and then coming home, you're going to go the other way. It'll add maybe 27 seconds to your commute. Is that something that you can swallow in the name of resilience for the future of your property and enhanced property values? So this conversation about harmonization got to this really creative place, and there was a lot of healthy back and forth with our residents. And I think it's just really important, since in the event of litigation, it will be really hard to prove whether the water that's inundating someone's property was caused by negligent operational activity on the part of the local government, right? Because sovereign immunity is not waived when you're talking about operational activity, or if it was caused just by sea level rise and the government had no action and didn't behave irresponsibly in building its infrastructure projects. So we really want to avoid this. I know that there has been a lot of litigation, and there's only going to be more to come, and we want to just protect ourselves, but also be really mindful that planning is key, and we're not going to hold back in terms of the finances required to continue studying and planning to make sure we have ideal outcomes. So this was the really pretty rendering that we sold to our residents for this roadway redesign. I'm talking a lot about the Treasure Island roads because I think it's the most unique aspect of our Stormwater Master Plan. We divided the village into 20 basins. We're gonna have brand new pump stations. We're gonna have new outfalls, new pipes. Everything is gonna be bigger and better, and it's gonna work as one unified, holistic system that talks to itself, which is not the case now. We have a grate, a pipe, and an outfall, and there's no interconnectedness within the system. That will all change. But this Treasure Island roadway project is to me one of the most interesting aspects of it. And we were really hoping to be able to achieve this beautiful vision of having rain gardens and other stormwater catchment areas while also having a much more pedestrian-friendly, safe roadway network within Treasure Island. Stormwater bond. We're talking about financing of the North Bay Village stormwater and roadway projects now. I'm so proud that this bond, $60 million, it's the highest amount per capita bond that's been approved in Miami-Dade County. $60 million, 8,500 residents. Our voters approved this bond 67%. We are so thrilled to have the buy-in of our residents on this infrastructure investment, and we are doing the best that we can to make sure we spend as little of that cushion as possible. We have applied for the federal Protect grant. We've gotten several $1 million from the state of Florida already. Our legislators have been phenomenal and given us appropriations dollars to get the North Bay Island pump station designed and into construction and permitting and construction. And so we're getting financing from as many outside sources as possible, but having this $60 million bond is so valuable because we're presenting matching dollars for every single grant application that we submit. And you all know that funders love to see matching dollars. So it's great that we have that available. This is just one of the public information pieces that we did, but we're really fortunate. Our comms director used to be an on-camera reporter for NBC6. So whenever we have a public engagement video, it's just very fancy. People love it. And so we did a lot of videos. We were on social. We did knock on doors. We had town halls. And then we have this great flyer. And we had an entire micro-site on our website dedicated to the Stormwater Master Plan to answer questions. And now that we've got Black and Veatch on board, they've got this great platform for us that describes all of the projects, that shows how much progress they're making, what each project is going to cost. You can see what projects are happening near me. It's really helpful. And then the sort of icing on the cake of the Stormwater Master Plan scope of work, is that I realized early on in the process that we were not in CRS. And I said, we're about to spend all this money updating our codes and doing this Stormwater Master Plan and moving through the vulnerability assessment and changing our comp plan. We need to be on CRS. And as part of our scope of work for the Stormwater Master Plan, we included basically a consultant scope to get us into CRS and get us on a path to being a Class 5. And so we were able to, after 6 months, I would say, of really hard work, we were able to get into CRS at a Class 8. And I have residents who have never said a nice thing about me ever, calling to say thank you. And that feels really good because that 10% discount on the flood insurance premium means something to people. And it's a really good motivator for me when I talk to my other colleagues to explain the importance of continuing to spend staff time and resources and budgetary funds on this effort. It's like, this is one of those really unique things where our wonky policy work translates to real financial savings to our residents. And I just think the incentive structure in CRS is so meaningful. We're thrilled about that. Thank you.